For months, the narrative was simple, loud, and endlessly repeated: Donald Trump was winning. Winning in court. Winning against the system. Winning against what his allies called a biased judiciary. Supporters were told again and again that the legal cases surrounding him were collapsing, that judges were secretly siding with him, and that the so-called witch hunt was falling apart. But quietly, methodically, and far away from the rally stages and cable news soundbites, something very different was unfolding inside federal courtrooms across the United States. 12 federal judges. Different states. Different courtrooms. Different political backgrounds. Yet one after another, they ruled against Donald Trump. And with each ruling, a carefully constructed myth began to crack. This is not a story about politics as theater. This is a story about power meeting law, and what happens when the law refuses to bend. The first ruling barely made headlines. It was described as procedural, technical, not worth the outrage. Trump's legal team dismissed it as meaningless. Supporters were told it was just another step on the road to victory. But inside legal circles, eyebrows were raised. The judge's language was unusually firm. The tone wasn't neutral. It was skeptical. And it set a precedent. Then came the second ruling. Different judge. Same result. Trump's arguments were rejected, not with hostility, but with precision. Page after page, the court dismantled claims that had been repeated for months on television and social media. The judge didn't speculate. He cited law. He cited precedent. He cited facts. By the third ruling, the pattern was impossible to ignore. What made these decisions remarkable was not just that Trump lost, it was how he lost. Judges didn't merely disagree with his legal strategy, they questioned its foundation. In several opinions, the courts pointed out inconsistencies between public claims and legal filings. What played well at rallies did not survive under oath. Behind the scenes, Trump's legal team began shifting tactics. Motions were refiled. Arguments were reframed. Deadlines were pushed. Each move suggested confidence on the surface, but urgency underneath. Federal judges are not known for dramatic language, yet some rulings carried unmistakable signals of frustration. Courts reminded Trump that fame does not change legal standards, and that past office does not create immunity from judicial scrutiny. Supporters continued to hear a different story. On friendly platforms, the narrative remained defiant. Losses were framed as temporary setbacks. Judges were described as biased. The system was accused of sabotage. But in courtrooms, none of that mattered. Federal judges do not rule based on applause. They rule based on filings, evidence, and law. And the law, repeatedly, was not on Trump's side. By the time the sixth ruling arrived, legal analysts began using words they had avoided before. Troubling. Significant. Damaging. Not because any single case was catastrophic, but because together they painted a picture of a defense struggling to gain traction. Arguments that once seemed aggressive now looked repetitive. Claims that once sounded bold now appeared recycled. Then came rulings 7, 8, and 9, each reinforcing the same conclusion. Courts rejected attempts to delay proceedings. They denied motions to dismiss. They allowed evidence to move forward. Step by step, the legal path narrowed. What shattered the winning streak myth completely was the diversity of the judges involved. These were not ideological clones. Some were appointed by Democrats. Others by Republicans. A few had records of conservative rulings. Yet across that spectrum, the decisions aligned. That fact alone undercut the claim of a coordinated political attack. By ruling 10, the tone of Trump's public messaging shifted subtly. The certainty softened. Words like total victory gave way to long fight. Legal confidence turned into grievance politics. The system, once dismissed as weak, was now portrayed as dangerous. The 11th ruling hit hardest because of its clarity. The judge addressed Trump's core argument head-on, and rejected it entirely. No ambiguity. No room for reinterpretation. The opinion read less like a debate and more like a closing door. And then came number 12. 12 federal judges. 12 rejections. 12 reminders that American courts operate independently of political branding. In legal terms, this was not a collapse, but it was something worse for Trump's narrative, a steady erosion. The idea of an unstoppable legal comeback was exposed for what it was, messaging, not reality. This does not mean Trump's legal journey is over. Appeals remain. Strategies evolve. The American legal system moves slowly, and outcomes are never guaranteed. But the myth of a dominant winning streak has been dismantled, not by pundits or opponents, but by judges sworn to uphold the law. History may one day debate Trump's political legacy endlessly. But these rulings will remain written in court records, immune to spin. They show a former president facing the same legal standards as any citizen, and failing, repeatedly, to convince the courts. In the end, the most powerful force against the myth was not outrage, not protest, and not media criticism. It was something quieter, more enduring, and far less dramatic. The rule of law. And now the question turns to you. Do you believe the legal system is finally holding powerful figures accountable, or is this just another chapter in a divided nation's long struggle with justice?